Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, AlbyMTG. For today's video, we'll be taking a look at the top 5 new commons for Pauper in Ultimate Masters. Ultimate Masters is a set made up entirely of reprints, so the cards that we'll be taking a look at here aren't new in the sense that, they're brand new, we're seeing them for the first time. They're new as in the sense that this is the first time where they're becoming legal in Pauper. Pauper being a format that consists only of commons, so all the cards that we'll be talking about in this list were previously only printed at rare and uncommon, and so this is the first time that we're seeing them in the common slot, making them Pauper legal. Another thing for this list, we won't be talking about Pauper staples that are getting reprinted in Ultimate Masters. I almost said Eternal Masters there, in Ultimate Masters, so something like Lava Spike is getting reprinted in Ultimate Masters, but it won't make this video because it's already been legal in Pauper. So again, just kind of, trying to set the guidelines here for what this list truly is. And so without further ado, I do have an honorable mention to get us started here, and that honorable mention is Dimir Guildmage. So Dimir Guildmage is a blue-black hybrid and a blue-black hybrid for a 2/2, and then it has 2 activated abilities. For 3 and a blue, target player draws a card, activated at sorcery speed, and then for 3 and a black, target player discards a card, activated at sorcery speed. So this is a very nice card to be able to go in your mono blue decks, in your mono black decks, generate a little bit of value. Where it really shines though is in the blue-black decks, where you have the mana to activate both halves of this card to make it very strong in particular matchups. Where you want to draw cards, you'll be able to do that, and where you want them to discard cards, you'll be able to do that as well. Some people have been talking about this card as seeing just sideboard play coming out of the Tron decks as well, because you do have access to make several different colors of mana. We've seen the 5-color Tron decks in the past, so it's very easy for them to make whatever colors of mana needed. And so Dimir Guildmage could be a nice little card to, again, generate a little bit of value. And because the activated abilities are a little bit more expensive, 3 in a blue and 3 in a black, it does require you to tap a reasonable amount of mana. But with the Tron lands, you have all that generic mana sitting around, so you will gladly be able to draw some cards and discard some cards and use up some of that mana that maybe would just kind of go to waste if you didn't have something to just activate it with, or something to use that mana on. It's a very, very nice mana sink here in Dimir Guildmage. Again, I don't think it'll be anything too crazy now that it's Pauper legal, but I do think it will see a decent amount of play, and especially some sideboard play out of the blue-black decks and out of the Tron deck as well. Onto the number 5 spot, we got my boy Offalsnout here. I'm not a big fan of the new artwork. I really liked the old artwork on Offalsnout, but I'll accept that. I'm happy my boy Offalsnout here is now legal in Pauper. 2 and a black for a 2/2 with flash, and when it leaves the battlefield, you exile target card from a graveyard, and then it has the evoke mechanic, which says you may cast the spell for its evoke cost. If you do, it's sacrificed when it enters the battlefield, and then the evoke cost here is for 1 black. So you have the ability to mess with your opponent's graveyard a little bit if they're going to try and reanimate something like an Ulamog's Crusher in their graveyard. You have the opportunity to flash in your Offalsnout with the evoke mechanic, have it hit the battlefield at instant speed, gets sacrificed right away. Offalsnout goes to your graveyard, and then you can go ahead and exile target card from their graveyard, so you can go ahead and choose, well, it says a graveyard, but most of the time you're going to choose their graveyard, and so you can get rid of their Ulamog's Crusher. If they are going to reanimate via Exhume and you don't have any creatures in the battlefield, or creatures in the graveyard, then this gives you a creature to reanimate as well. So if they cast Exhume, you have nothing in your graveyard, they have an Ulamog's Crusher, and that's it. They cast Exhume, you evoke in your Offalsnout, your Offalsnout hits the graveyard, exiles their Ulamog's Crusher, the Exhume resolves, they get to put nothing back into play, and you get to put your Offalsnout back into play, which seems like a pretty cool play here for Pauper to stop these reanimation-based strategies. And I'm very happy to see Offalsnout here in Pauper. It won't be the most impactful card, but now that it is legal, it is something that maybe the Reanimator players will want to kind of pay attention to when playing against a black deck, that maybe their opponent could have Offalsnout. Most of the time, Offalsnout's just going to be a sideboard card, has a little bit of graveyard hate, but I think it has some potential here in the Pauper format. Onto the number 4 card, sticking with a little bit of reanimation strategy here in Pauper, we have Resurrection, which is 2 white for a sorcery, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So we did end up getting another reanimation effect. However, unfortunately, this reanimation effect is white, and most of the Reanimator decks that we're seeing so far are black or red, or I mean black and red mainly. I've seen a couple like mono black lists as well, but I really like the black and red lists because you get access to Cathartic Reunion and Tormenting Voice as additional ways to discard your bigger threats. And so Resurrection being in a color that's not red or black is sort of unfortunate for the reanimation strategy. Maybe we'll see some sort of strategy emerge that ends up being a black and white strategy where you're trying to reanimate Gurmag Anglers and Ulamox Crushers with Resurrection now, as well as Exhume and these other effects that you have with the black-based decks. It would, of course, mean that there's less ways to discard. You won't get access to the Cathartic Reunions and the Tormenting Voice if you go for the Orzhov strategy instead. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with Resurrection. You could end up trying a Mardu list as well, but if you try the Mardu list, then you're playing a lot of tap lands, can really slow down your strategy quite a bit as well. And so it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with Resurrection. My prediction is that Resurrection won't actually see a ton of play right out the bat now that it's legal in Pauper, but later on we'll see more, big white creatures in Pauper, and maybe we'll see some more discard outlets. Maybe Madness will return in the future. We saw that with Shadows over Innistrad and Eldritch Moon. The Madness mechanic came back, and there were a few white cards like Peace of Mind that enabled these discard strategies, these Madness strategies. And so maybe if we see more of those in the future, Resurrection's stock will increase in the Pauper format. And I think it's one of those cards that will definitely get better in the format over time. Maybe won't have the immediate impact that some of these other cards will, but will definitely be a big, heavy hitter in Pauper in the future. And so that takes us onto our number 3 slot, which is Tethmos High Priest. Tethmos High Priest is 3 mana for a 2/3 cat cleric with Heroic. Whenever you cast a spell that targets Tethmos High Priest, return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This again could be great for a sideboard strategy against removal heavy decks to bring back some of your other smaller creatures, but honestly, it has the potential to be mainboard as well. There are a lot of removal-based strategies in Pauper. Some of these decks, like the blue-red and even mono-blue Delver strategies, they're countering a lot of spells, putting things into the graveyard. So if you can get this Tethmos High Priest to resolve against those decks, especially the mono-blue deck, if you can get the Tethmos High Priest to resolve, and then maybe you cast a couple heroic spells, you can get back some of these creatures that they've previously countered in the game and really just have a huge tempo-swinging turn due to the Tethmos High Priest. So I think it has a lot of potential here in Pauper. I also saw someone on Twitter who already brewed up an infinite combo that you can do here with the Tethmos High Priest. So there's going to be some brewing happening with the Tethmos High Priest. I think the infinite combo, it required, I believe it was Naya, so 3 different colors of mana. So it was a little bit clunky, but kind of interesting to see that there was already an infinite combo found in Pauper with the High Priest. But I think that its main purpose is going to end up just being a very good value card in the more aggressive white-based strategies, the more low-to-the-ground white-based strategies. And we've seen these heroic decks showing up in the past in Pauper as well. There's been mono-white heroic, mono-red heroic. Maybe they join together, make a red-white heroic deck, and you can see Tethmos High Priest just bringing back the most valuable of the heroic cards from each of those 2 strategies. I think that would be very cool as well. So number 3 slot here, Tethmos High Priest. That takes us on to the number 2 slot. Number 2 slot here is Foil, here for the first time in Pauper. 2 blue for a card that says counter, or for an instance that says counter target spell. Not the best. However, it has an additional line of text that says you may discard an island card and another card rather than paying this spell's mana cost. So if you want to discard an island card and something else, then you get to cast Foil for free instead of paying the 4 mana, which can be great if you're trying to do some sort of combo, or even if you're just trying to do some sort of a strategy where your opponent's trying to do this combo, you tap out to maybe play your own threat, and then you actually have Foil backup, but they think that they're ready to combo off because you tapped out as the blue player. They think it's time to combo off, and then you get them with a Foil, and then can go ahead and attack them back because you already deployed a threat of your own. That's mainly where Foil is going to end up seeing play. Another thing that's really cool is the interaction between Gush and Foil. Gush allows you to return some islands to your hand in order to draw some cards, and so Foil loves that you have additional cards in your hand, especially knowing that one of which will be an island from returning due to the Gush. So Foil and Gush, the interaction there is just perfect for the Pauper format, and I think you're going to see Foil showing up in a lot of these blue-based control strategies, especially mono-blue Delver, maybe even the blue-red Delver list as well. And of course, this takes us on to the number 1 slot, which is Fire Ice. So Fire is an instant for 2 mana, says Fire deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets, and then Ice is 1 and a blue for an instant, tap target permanent, draw a card. So Fire and Ice doesn't have Fuse, so you can't cast both of these together at the same time, but the versatility of being able to cast one of these at any point in time, some of these, the Fire mode is much better against certain strategies than the Ice mode is, and then the Ice mode will be much better against certain strategies than the Fire mode is. So against like your super aggressive strategies, maybe where you're playing against a lot of 1 toughness creatures, Fire could just be a 2 for 1 for 2 mana, which could be great. Maybe if you're playing against Reanimator and you just need to buy a little bit more time, you just need to tap down their Ulamog's Crusher, don't want it to attack you, Ice will allow you to tap down that Ulamog's Crusher, give you an extra turn, and draw you a card. So Fire Ice could be very, very strong in this format. Of course, the blue-red Delver lists are exactly what you want Fire Ice for. It fits perfectly for that strategy. It's hard to think of a better card that could have been downshifted outside of like the rares and mythics, of course. That would be perfect for the blue-red Delver list. That wasn't Fire and Ice. Fire and Ice is so good for this strategy. The versatility makes it great as well. So again, for something like Tron, where you're capable of producing several different colors of mana, you can go ahead and use the Fire Ice. Sometimes, again, we talked about Fire would be good in some strategies, Ice will be good against some strategies, so maybe a sideboard card that you'll bring in against each of those strategies, maybe even a main board card since it has play against many decks in the format. So Fire Ice, definitely a card to look out for here in Pauper now that it's legal, thanks to Ultimate Masters. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching this video. If you guys did enjoy it, be sure to leave a like as well as subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see more Magic the Gathering content like this in the future. If you guys agree with my list, be sure to let me know down below in the comments. And of course, if you disagree with the list, be sure to let me know down below in the comments as well. Let's have a little discussion here about some new Pauper cards from Eternal Masters, or I said Eternal Masters again, from Ultimate Masters here in Pauper. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys here next time with another Magic the Gathering video. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video where we talk about the top 5 newly legal Pauper cards from Ultimate Masters. Of course, at the end of all of my videos, I love to give a huge shout out and thank you to my patrons over on the Patreon page. So huge shout out and thank you to BadWolfMTG, Jason, Jeremy, Daniel, Rodrigo, and Jayathi Swaran for supporting me over on the Patreon page. Absolutely appreciate the support that they give me over there. I definitely appreciate you watching this video as well. Truly means the world to me, and thank you so much for watching.